I didn't deny it, I had it.
Oh, yeah.
Same, everybody. Yeah, so just preliminaries. We know come to the next action.
I'll be out of town for that one. A lot of sign in here.
First week of April. Whenever he has workshops.
You don't have to. My guy that was supposed to be there at 5:15 showed up at about 20 after 6.
Right. Nice.
You on there?
Well, it's right up in the paper somewhere. It's just turned away over there. Everything. You get some of this cheese. What are you interested in? You'll just be able to. I'd like to some good.
Pretty fun area. Yeah, there should be more possibilities.
Is that close? 3 minutes.
Oh.
57.
I can scratch my signature on something in 3 minutes, can't I?
So if you go to Africa every year to month, or is it every few years?
That's the way.
Okay. Where do you go now? What's the general?
Yeah. I don't need a reason to make it costs a lot. And where we pay on River Street.
We need to move.
Yeah. And
It's March.
I just got she walked over.
I said it's March.
Yeah.
It's Wheatland.
Yes. It was good.
Yeah. 11 o'clock. Making it.
And I said, she'd say,
Is it a high wind warning or?
No, it just says starting at 20 miles per hour. That's about as high as it's going to get. It's just a calm breeze.
That's not much around here.
No, it's not.
Yeah.
I read that and I had to double
So we are too.
It's time.
Yeah.
It's time. Call the meeting in order. Everybody knows the drill already.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Tabitha, would you please take roll?
Councilman Mattson?
Here.
Councilman Montoya?
Here.
Councilman Kaufman?
Here.
Councilman Ellison?
Present.
Mayor Graves?
Here. You have before you an agenda. I don't believe there's any changes to said agenda, so I'd entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
Make a motion.
Second.
To approve the agenda. It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. For the purpose of discussion, the consent agenda items are in front of you. I would entertain a motion to approve and place to record the consent agenda items.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there discussion on the consent agenda items?
Give it a minute. I do what I like to get. What do you say? Come up with live on your 65-foot low. Yeah. Great. Thank you.
I have just one question. Thank you. Doug, counselor, so I saw our most latest hangar acquisition decided not to lease it. And then it says they have to get a new appraisal.
I don't think they have to. Josh and I have been talking. He wanted to do it a little different after we looked at everything again. And so Josh and the seller they're having discussions. And I think he wants to sell it. It's just the terms of that. And then Josh said he had to visit about it. With the seller, and also under the one agreement, he was going to keep the hangars, but I don't think he wants to do that. And I think the worst case scenario is we have to have a quick reappraisal.
Oh, not based on because he didn't want to lease it, just more of a time constraint thing.
Well, not a time constraint. He really wants. I think he wants to redo it differently. They were under the impression that he wanted to sell just the land, not the building. And so now he wants to sell everything.
Oh, okay, that makes sense, and I understand.
So that's what they're doing.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Moving on to petitions, memorials, proclamations, and public comment. So, Tracy, you're up if you want. You can go first, and then we'll get Kathy. Smiley.
Good evening. I trust that did you get your wellness reports? This month? Okay. And Doug pointed out to me that in the school enrollment, the numbers are right for the enrollment, but I didn't change January to the new year, to 2024. So the month-to-month comparison, it's still 891 students in the district, but it should say 2024 there. roll that over to the new year. So there wasn't much movement on school enrollment this last month. Really, it was everything across the board. You guys probably noticed too, was just really an even keel compared to last month. There wasn't much movement in anything, in utilities or enrollment. Housing, again, was real comparable to last month. There was just one less house for sale this month than last month. And even the in the construction report, the permits issued were real comparable to last month and then a year ago as well. Unemployment, that it's always at least a 1 month lag, and our unemployment rate matches the state exactly at this point in time at 3.1%. So nothing too exciting on the trends there. I don't know if you had a chance to read the article that I sent you. I don't know, what were your thoughts on that article where it compared young people that for those of you in the audience, the name of the article was "Statistics Don't Lie, Young People Are Fleeing Wyoming." And it was based on research that a man named Tom Lubnow had compiled. And what he did is he compared the number of students in our schools as opposed to the number of people moving into Wyoming. And you would think that as people moved in, the school enrollment would increase, and it hasn't. People have moved in, and the school enrollment has decreased. So he was just like pointing out statistically why this was. He didn't really offer any ideas as to why. He did make some suggestions that he's surmising, but he didn't offer any kind of solutions. I don't know. I just thought it was interesting, and he's a former legislator, so and he lives in Gillette now. He's a lawyer. So I guess I would be interested in just what your thoughts were on that article and what he had to say.
Well, much like you, I don't disagree with his findings or his quotes or what he's talking about in there, but interestingly enough, the lack of perspective on maybe a viable reason or some ideas on how to reverse that trend is what's lacking in the article. But the meat and potatoes of the article is very good, and I thank you for sharing it, because I don't know if I would have stumbled across this in anything, my readings, because it obviously wasn't like in the Cowboy State News Network that I get daily, or I wouldn't have seen it in a newspaper or anything, I don't think. So I appreciate you sharing it, but the lack of offering a solution-oriented perspective is what's the glaring miss in this article.
I did notice at the beginning he said it's a two-part, and this is part one. So I'm hoping maybe he offers some insight to some of those things, and I'll be sure, and I'll be watching for that, and I'll be sure to share that part two with you, because I think it'd be interesting to see maybe if he does have some ideas as to what's happening, or why this trend. And so I just think that in terms of drawing a comparison to Wheatland, that it's something that we should all kind of have our eyes on and say, I do know our enrollment has decreased, and yet our population, I looked back, and from 2010 to 2020, the two censuses, we are down countywide by 60 people in as of the last census in 2020. So that's countywide. So even our population showed a dip as well. So it'll be interesting to see what, kind of, if I can find some more information and kind of see where that trend falls as we move forward. Just moving forward in terms of things that I think you might be interested in as well. I have been asked by the Wyoming Community Foundation to be a grant reader, and that is part of that is the Wyoming Intertie, that Grid United group that's putting in the transmission line, one of the transmission lines. They are a huge supporter of that grant funding. And so when I talked to them about that, I didn't want that to preclude me from being a grant writer and take us out of the option to write a grant. And they checked into it and they said, no, it wouldn't. They have enough people on their committee that I could still do grant writing. And then obviously I would be excused from reading any of our own grants that we might submit, but could still be on the grant reader side of that. So I'm working with those folks now. There's a Wyoming Energy Authority meeting tomorrow that I'll be attending. So I'll report back to you in March, anything that comes of that meeting. And then I've been working with the Wyoming Business Council, and we're going to do some what they call asset mapping, and then some site selection work where they have a database where we put in all the infrastructure workings of our county and Wheatland. And then that's a place that when businesses are interested in relocating, that's one of the first places they check to see what kinds of infrastructure options we already have in place. So I'm working with the Wyoming Business Council to get those things updated and in place. So, do you have anything for me or questions? Okay.
For the intertie transmission line, whether we see workers staying in Wheatland, do you know? I seen their big yard on the other side of Chugwater, then right outside of Glendale.
Well, you know, that might be that yard, that laydown yard, that might be Black Hills Energy, because they talked about their project is called Ready Wyoming, and they're putting a laydown yard in Platte County, so that's probably Black Hills.
Is that who that is? Okay.
Mm-hmm. And because I haven't heard anything about a laydown yard from the Wyoming Intertie group. I know they're going to open an office here in Wheatland, and they're renting a space, so they're going to have some people here in.
Yeah, both those yards are growing fast with poles. I assumed, I didn't know. So.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I could sure check and
No, I they don't have a sign saying whose poles these are, so I was just assumed.
I just know that.
Don't be taking them.
Yeah, I go to Douglas once a week, and Glendale's is changing overnight.
Yeah, I just know Black Hills Energy mentioned that at the last board meeting that they were going to have a laydown yard. So I'm assuming it's there.
That could be there.
That's a good assumption. Okay. Well, as always, yeah.
Thanks, Tracy.
Call me if you need anything.
Thanks, Tracy.
Yep.
Hi.
Nice.
Well, it's been a little quiet over at the chamber. The legislative session is going on. That has taken the director, Shauna, down there, and she left me a statement from her to read. She said the Chamber of Commerce has been actively engaging in the 2024 legislative season to ensure the interests of our local businesses are represented. We've closely collaborated with the Wyoming State Chamber of Commerce to review a range of bills, adopting positions from support to opposition, and in some cases remaining neutral. This effort reflects our dedication to fostering a conducive business environment and advocating for policies that promote prosperity of our business community. We encourage our members and the public to review the list of bills we're monitoring, share the perspectives, and suggest any changes in our stance to ensure our advocacy aligns with the needs and values of Platte County businesses. I know she and we, as a chamber, have been in contact with Representative Haraldson nearly daily to make sure that we are all on the same page and getting proper representation for our county down there. Otherwise, I guess I have recently learned that a lot of people don't know what the Chamber of Commerce does or what its purpose is. And our entire purpose, my job, is to keep the cohesive businesses. It's to promote, advocate. I spend a lot of time discussing marketing, advertising, which is not my wheelhouse, but I am learning slowly, or learning at all, how to do that. But it is very interesting that a lot of times business owners, they don't have the time to research things. So then they call me, and then I spend my day researching grants, loans, small business. You know, I talked with the Small Business Association in Casper, and that is pretty much what I do. Statistically, there are 270 businesses in Platte County, and we have 73% of them as members of the chamber. We are always aiming for more, but as a national average, only 60%. So Platte County is above the grade. And fun fact, there are 3 counties in the United States that have Platte County, and if you Google Platte County, we are first, which explains the amount of questions I get for Kansas City, Missouri. A lot of people just Google Platte County Chamber of Commerce, and then they call me and ask me about something in Kansas, and it usually takes a few minutes before I realize that they're talking about Kansas. But I spend a lot of time going, huh? But we are at the top, so I think that's probably really good.
Is there any other public comment at this time?
I had a question. Do I have to stand up there? Or-
Yes.
You're going?
No.
Oh, you're letting me out. Okay. I'm Tiffany Lang. I own the property at 40 South Wheatland Highway. Back in September, I called Doug Dumont about the work going on at Edenton's property at 28 South Wheatland Highway, because the groundwork has been built up very high and causing damage to my property when the storms come in. Walter came out and said there were no violations, they were within code. Today I saw they were pouring concrete after I had paid $1,500 to a survey company to come out and do the property lines to where my property is. And where their dirt work is piled up is within a foot of my property line. The setbacks in the town now are 25 feet. So I'm a little concerned as to how someone is building or piling dirt 10 feet tall on my property line. And when I called Doug Dumont today about it, he told me that the rule is 15 feet. However, I found out that that's actually what ordinance 848 is voting in tonight, is changing it to read 15 feet setback on highway business property for setbacks. When I asked him why this building was still going on, he said that there is a variance that Edenton got, when in fact there's not. I did a public record search. There's no variance that was ever applied for. There was no variance that was ever voted on. There was none of that. So I'm here to ask the town council how someone is allowed to do that, and that if that is allowed, then I will grade my ground up 20 feet and have a dirt hill there of 20 feet.
So you see, we're all reading ordinance 848 as you're speaking, Tiffany. And I do have a note from Walter, and he said he measured the structure setback for you guys, and that it is 25 feet from the line, and that meets the required setback for the business in the highway business zone. He didn't address side yard or rear yard setback, but he addressed the building setback and said everything's in compliance that way, building wise.
He also, in this packet I got from Dumont on the public records request, said that there were no building permits that were applied for yet. Now that was back in September, so he may have since. But also stated that site drainage requirements, that there should be no concentrated channels created emptying directly across property lines. I'm a little confused what an 8-foot mound of dirt slope down at my property is if that's not a concentrated channel.
we would probably need to see their building plans to see what they're.
There's none.
When I asked in September, there were none.
There's none.
Here's what I think, when they do drainage plans, they design it for water flowing off. They don't, and the mound is not a structure. I could put a mound in my backyard, it's not a structure. And that's what everybody's confused at. And anybody you can build a fence 10 feet tall if you want to. But
You can't build a big fence 10 feet tall.
if you'd let me finish, if you got the necessary variance. This is not a structure. This is a dirt mound that I believe doesn't qualify, and Walter doesn't think it qualifies as a structure. If you have any dispute, it may be a civil dispute with Eddington. And that's where it's at this point. It's too bad that Walter isn't here and that.
Well, he got invited.
I told both Doug and Walter I was coming.
Here's the problem. We're just gonna cut to the chase here. This thing was applied for on a special use permit, this property was. Planning and zoning turned it down. Shot it down. It went to the appeal process. They overturned it.
Two person
Two
votes.
people. Now, according to Wheatland's code, it has to go back to planning and zoning to get approval. The appeal board cannot overturn planning and zoning. They have to overturn it. So the bigger picture here that we got is that this special use permit shouldn't even have been in place. You know it. You made a comment to George Pyle about it. You've had comments to George Pyle about it. So
I have not. Don't put words in my mouth, Mr. Lang.
Okay.
I have not had a conversation with Pyle. I can tell you I stepped away from that. That property is right across the road from me, and I had no comments on that property whatsoever. So don't be saying something you don't know anything about. Okay?
Are you done raising your voice at me, sir?
I am,
citizen.
because you
I'm a citizen, sir, and I don't respect you raising your voice at me, okay? I'm just asking, they created a mound, the runoff, the water runoff, the snow, from the little bit of snow that we have, has blown across our property. You couldn't even see the town dumpster,
We had to
right?
dig the dumpster out so the town
so the
could
town
get
could pick it
out.
up.
Where it's been for
I
years.
said, okay, I'm gonna go buy those concrete things, I'm gonna build a 20-foot wall,
I
right?
was told I had to
I
put
was told I couldn't do that today.
it 15 feet off my property
Yes,
line.
I was told that. So
Yet
what
he's
is-
allowed to mound dirt up right to my property line. So if that's the town's stance, then we'll play dirt wars, and I'll have a 20-foot mound of dirt right there that will blow into your backyard, Doug.
well, I know how to take care of that.
Well, I'm
I'm
sure
sure
you do,
you
you're a
do.
lawyer.
I just don't understand how it's,
The property was leveled before this man bought it. He never in his plans submitted that he was gonna build it up 10 foot, right? So now,
the only thing that was submitted with his special use permit was a drawing of the building right backed up to the property line. And in the special use permit, it says that you have to apply for any variance.
Well, I guess I appreciate the comments. We'll take your comments under advisement, and we'll have to get some clarification from the planner and the building inspector on their take.
And I think when they had an issue with this, I think, because I was across the street, I think Brian Ottery advised planning and zoning. I am not sure. I can not tell you.
but I guess the clarification would be, is it or is it not true when planning turns something down, it goes to the appeal process, the appeal board. If they find something wrong with the decision of the planning and zoning, it has to go back to the planning department, planning and zoning committee. Is that correct or incorrect?
I haven't looked at that, Jeremy, I'll be honest with you. And I wasn't involved in that because it comes to me. And I don't think the council would know off.
Yeah, it would be.
And how many votes are required to overturn
I
something?
would have to read
I
the
thought it's a
bylaws of how that
4-person.
works.
Not a 2-person.
I don't know if there was a quorum there. like I said, there was a quorum, and so
Daryl's on the board, so he would
It
know
was
that.
unanimous when we voted.
There were 2 people there.
There weren't two.
No, we can't have a meeting with only 2 people.
That's not a quorum. There was at least 4.
Here's the vote right here.
I guess we're just more concerned about the damage to our property, right? And what's being allowed in town. You guys have no codes for dirt work, right? And so I can build a 10-foot wall, but if you look at my property, when Chuck Brown built it, the structure is off the property line, 25 feet, right? So obviously that's been made. If you want to build a building, that's fine, but we're just allowed to pile dirt up and then build a building? I mean, that doesn't make any sense. There's erosion control, and I addressed it with him months and months ago, right? Oh, we're going to plant trees here, and we're going to do this, and we're going to do that. None of it's been done.
So right here in the Town of Wheatland Board of Adjustments meetings from July 27th, 2022, board members present were Zimmershed, I apologize if I messed that up, Tiltram, and Butler. There were only 3 people present, so I don't know how you would have a 4-person vote with 3 people present.
3 people's a quorum.
That is.
It's a 5-person board.
I think that's what this says, so okay, I'll go back and do my research. I'm pretty sure I read 4-person quorum in the.
There's different quorums for planning and zoning and the Board of Adjustments, so that might be where you're.
Okay, but.
So we're going to vote
But
on,
only 2 people voted. It says right here, upon call to vote on the motion was yes, Butler, yes, Tiltram, no, none, and that's it. So does that say only 2 people voted?
But if it's a 3 people,
So only 2 people have to vote?
that would pass it.
Okay, so then I guess we just need clarification on whether they're allowed to overturn it by themselves without it going back to planning and zoning.
and I also want clarification on where in the code now does it, when it's talking about variance, that it talks about structures and not building dirt walls. Because nowhere in that code does it say that. Because you have to give a variance. So if you go to the state of Wyoming and you build it, because you notice, if you notice, he didn't mess with the state of Wyoming, right? But if he would have done that to the state of Wyoming, they'd have been all up his butt. Excuse me, but no, he did it on our property line. There's erosion already. They just did the dirt work. And to say it's a civil matter, sure, it could be a civil matter, but it's also falls back on the town of Wheatland. That the town has allowed it, and that we have filed multiple complaints, and there's always a simple answer, or someone's passing the buck. You know, when we call your planner, we get, oh, I don't enforce planning or zoning. I don't enforce violations. My job is just to plan and zone. So when someone's in violation in the town of Wheatland of planning and zoning, why are we as tax dollar payers paying to employ somebody at the town of Wheatland that isn't enforcing zoning? We have it on recording. He said it on recording. And then he says to us, I'll have to check with Doug Weaver. Everything when we have a conversation with Dumont goes, we have to check, I'll have to check with Doug Weaver.
And now twice, when it's been brought up to Mr. Weaver, I think Doug just misspoke. It's always a misspeaking.
Something's got to change, guys. In my opinion, I think that 2 people are running this town, and it's not fair to people in this town. Paid $500,000 for that property right there, and now we got an eyesore of a dirt mound and erosion coming down on our property. When we purchased that property, we never had that problem. So I would like some clarification brought to Tiffany's attention from a council person, preferably not Doug Weaver, our relationship is not good at this point. But there needs to be some clarification as to what's going on, so. Thank you.
For your time.
Thank you. You think Brian did that? Cause I'll get with Walter and Doug.
Yeah, I think he did because I
I
tried to
remember
stay.
that because you tried to steer clear of it, cause I know
Yes.
you have your feeling about that
Right.
property as well.
That's true. I think Brian oversaw that.
I think they had a question and they called me and I said, you gotta call somebody else.
Yeah, I think I remember that. Is there any other public comment at this time? Hearing none, we'll move on to unfinished business, item number 1, which is ordinance 848. It updates the Wheatland Municipal Code and it's on third and final reading.
Last time I told you, I thought that one provision would be 5, it's under C and then little I. I don't think that, it really isn't even, it says in the event there is not a quorum, it should read that at the scheduled meeting described above, the application should be considered approved. That doesn't give the objectors, and I'm not picking on the Langs, if they were objecting and there wasn't a quorum, it shouldn't be automatically approved because they haven't been heard before that panel. And so those people that are objecting something in this provision, I think this is for planning and zoning if I remember correctly. But it wouldn't be fair. I think you just have to make sure you have members that show up. I mean, that's their job, is to show up and make those decisions. I don't think we've ever had it where they've happened twice. Because up in above it says in the event there's no quorum, 4 members present, the request shall be postponed to the next scheduled meeting. The cost associated with this postponement shall be at the town's expense. And the reason you have that in there is it's not the applicant's fault that you don't have the quorum sitting up there. It's really the town's fault and the people they've selected for that. And then down below, if there isn't a quorum on the second meeting of that same issue, Doug and I went back and forth and I finally put this together and he was okay with it, but I always in the back of my mind felt uncomfortable. And I just don't think you give people that have objections to it due process when you say, geez, I'm gonna approve it whether there's a meeting or not. So I don't think that's an appropriate provision. I don't think it's constitutional if you wanna know the truth of the matter. And so I would ask you to approve this with removing that I under C, that little I under C.
I'll make a motion that we approve ordinance number 848 on the third reading with the removal of 5C.
Not a
5CI.
just I, just a little I, just the
CI.
yes, but not the C part, but just the
Okay.
one underneath it.
I'll second that.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Moving on to new business, item number 1. You have a contract for landscape and dirt work with T&C Landscape. Would entertain a motion to approve and have the mayor sign said contract.
Motion to approve the landscaping contract with TNC Landscape.
Second.
Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Bar Engineering change order number 3 for Black Mountain Electric Phase 2. It is 45-1. Well, I would entertain a motion to accept change order number 3 for South Street Underground Phase 2 electric work.
Which part is this? Is this down there by the
It's the one that we're
impact
on.
ministry?
Well, this
No.
is,
This is Black Mountain, where we're trying to get the underground all completed, isn't it? This is the engineering firm.
This is the engineering just for the electrical project, so. Black Mountain, phase 2.
In your neighborhood, right behind your house.
I know, but South Street's got me thrown.
Oh, they're just, some of them call it South Street, because it started on South Street. This is phase 2.
Oh,
Yeah, it's not the one out to.
Yeah.
okay, I thought this was the extension going down South Street, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
I'll make a motion to approve bar engineering change order number 3.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Is there further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Item number 3 is award the bid for weed fertilization and mosquito spraying.
Make a motion that we accept the bid form from Southeast Wyoming Weed Control.
Second.
For all 3 phases.
All 3 phases.
Discussion.
Is there any discussion?
Can I ask, congratulations, Mick. With the new sod going down at the Legion Field, and Todd asked that, 4 fertilizer applications of, Ridenour's. Where's your fertilizer compare with Ridenour?
Ours is a 1932-10, comes from Wesco. And so, if he wants us, we can match the blend that Ridenour does through Wesco. Ridenour's quite a bit more expensive than Wesco. So I get the numbers he wants.
Well, I just want to save 80,000 here of infield and dirt work is all.
Yeah.
And can you add a 4th application to that,
Of course, yeah. That's
that field?
pretty easy, yeah. Yep, no problem at all. And I can work with Todd on that too, and just, we can put the numbers together, put on exactly what he wants.
Would you please?
Sure.
So are we approving 1-year contract?
You get
I
it?
think it's a 2.
I think it's 2. It's
Is it a
bid.
two? Do we do
Bid
two?
is 2.
Yeah, I don't think it was said, but I just want to make sure.
Yeah, I think both of them bid. for
Yeah, I
these.
saw they both did too, but I want to make sure we have it. That
Just
it's
so
a-
it's-
that it's a
Oh,
two.
so
So we know what
It's
we're
a
Yes,
two-year.
approving.
yes.
226.
There you go. He amended the motion. You still second with his amendment?
Yeah. Yeah, well, good.
All right, is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Ordinance number 849, an ordinance continuing the optional 1% sales tax, first reading.
I'll make a motion to approve ordinance number 849, ordinance continuing the optional 1% sales tax.
I'll second it.
Is there further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. You also have in front of you resolution number 3-2024 on a budget amendment. Budget amendment is for $173,190. And it's for the swimming pool, the Little League backstops, and the Legion infield.
In the fire hall.
Yeah, as I say, there's.
And the fire hall.
Yeah, the fire hall.
Yeah, in the fire hall.
Make a motion to approve resolution 03-2024.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. And if there's no other announcements, believe it or not, other than saying,
Okay.
yeah, go for it.
You know, Mick should have said this a long time ago. You know, congratulations to you and your coaches and your basketball team for doing a fantastic job representing Wheatland. Yeah, it's outstanding. Appreciate it. I'm done.
That's a good catch, Tony. Thank you for that. Other than that, I would just say that the next regularly scheduled council meeting will be April 8th, right here. And with that, the meeting is adjourned.